Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
What's going on, guys? It's Filthy and I'm back with another video. We're on the 269 Season 21 PTR and we're looking at the God Speed Demon Hunter. So this is the Gears of Dreadland. It's been reworked on PTR. There was a patch last night. It's now incredibly quick, doing GR95 with about 14k main stat. Really good map, 2 minutes. Average map, 2 minutes 30. Worst map imaginable, it's about 3 minutes, 3 minutes 10. It is ludicrously fast. Tons of damage, little bit squishy, but there is something we can do to fix that if you want to go a little bit slower and have double the toughness. Really easy to play, a lot of fun, really reminiscent of Whirlwind. It is spin to win Demon Hunter. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of variations on this type of build. There's probably even some extra damage we could add to go even further. This is just going to be how to play this in a kind of brainless, really quick, really high way. So let's jump into it. But before we do, welcome to this channel if you're new. If you like Diablo 3, do subscribe. I've got plenty more videos coming. I'll be covering all the starter guides, all the builds that come across over the course of the season. As always, guys, a thumbs up makes me feel nice and happy. So jumping in and looking at the gear, guys, we're going to take the full 6 pieces of the Gears of Dreadlands. The 2 piece, we gain 4 seconds of momentum when attacking with the primary skill. We're going to be using Hungering Arrow. We get a maximum momentum duration of 20 seconds. Our primary skills deal 10% per second of momentum, so at 20 stacks we deal 200% damage. So the way it works is we use Hungering Arrow and we get up to 20 stacks. We've got 20 seconds now of momentum, which is really nice. Now the 4 piece, when we strafe like we just did, we automatically shoot out our last primary skill, so we'll fire out Hungering Arrows as we strafe, which is great. We get 60% damage reduction. We also keep this for 5 seconds after strafing, which is nice, and we also get 8% move speed per second of momentum. So if we strafe now with nothing, we just do it at normal speed, but if we juice up to say 20 stacks, we now strafe around really fast, and that's why this build is so quick. 6 piece, nice and simple. Primary skills deal 10,000% increased damage. Now this applies to the ones that we fire out ourselves, and it also applies to the ones fired out of our strafing. So we do damage on the move and we also do damage when we stop. Now we're going to be strafing pretty much the whole way. We're just going to be stopping every so often to up the momentum stack. So I'll just demonstrate that now. So you build your stacks up to 20 at the start of the rift, and then you basically just kind of clicking every so often, just trying to keep that figure at 20, and it really does output quite a lot of damage. So Hungering Arrow, we're going to juice this up with the 9th series Satchel. It now is guaranteed to pierce with the power on this, and it deals up to 600% damage, obviously very big modifier. The Hunter's Wrath Belt also makes it so that it attacks 30% faster, because that applies to all primary skills, and it deals up to 200% increased damage. We're going to take Depth Diggers. Primary skills that generate resource deal 100% additional damage, so another mod. Simplicity Strength, again, flat damage modifier to our primary skill, which is great. Really nice secondary as well. We will heal for 4% of our maximum health whenever we hit, which is great, obviously with the Hungering Arrow. We are a bit squish, so the life you'll see in the footage does go down quite a lot, but we can get it back very quickly with this, so very nice. Taeguk also is another modifier, so because we're only going to be stopping for a fraction of a second to spit out a Hungering Arrow and keep our momentum stacks at 20, the Taeguk won't drop. That means we can get up to kind of like 60-70% damage depending on the level of your gem, and also 20% armor, which is pretty nice. Now whilst we're here, we've also got Focus and Restraint, so obviously when we fire out Hungering Arrow and build up our momentum stacks, we will hit something that will give us 50% extra damage, and Strafe obviously is a spender, so we'll proc the other part. So Focus and Restraint are up the entire way over double damage modifier, which is pretty nice. We've got a Bane of the Trapped, so anything that gets within the aura of this will be slowed. We can then deal extra damage. This is very much going to be brainless, run up to stuff with your strafe and blow it up, so pretty good. Conventional Elements is going to give us spike damage on cold, because we have the cold rune, so this just comes about when it comes about. You don't need to do anything, there's nothing you need to do, it's just extra damage when it is up. And then finally, on a damage perspective, we have Echoing Fury, so this caps out at 5 stacks. We get 1 stack every time we kill. we get up to 75% attack speed, which is crazy fast, and also 25% move speed as well, so it keeps the build nice and zippy for us. We're obviously going to try and keep Vengeance up 100%, so a Dawn on the character is essential. This will give us 65% cooldown on Vengeance, so that gives us extra damage and extra hatred, which is pretty good. Rounding out the gear, we've got the Nemesis Braces, so that we can spawn elites and champions. This will allow us to do rifts in 2 minutes. Really hard to do 2-minute rifts without Nems. And then also Flavour of Time. Again, a really good speed build item, because it just means that when you get that shield pile, it lasts for 2 minutes. When you get your Condi, it lasts for a minute. Power lasts for a minute, and you can absolutely melt. So obviously a 2-minute clear is going to involve a couple of good pylons early, and you'll just keep them the whole way. Now, what I would say is if you are finding it is just a little too squishy for you, you can easily swap the NEMs for Wraps of Clarity. You will always be using your generator within 5 seconds, so that's a double toughness, so that is certainly an option. I did play around with this for a bit, but if you want to do GR95 in 2 minutes, you're going to have to take the NEMs. Now, in terms of gems in the gear, we're going to take all res gems in the chest and pants to help with the toughness, because obviously at GR95 elemental stuff will absolutely wreck you, so you definitely need these. And then in the gem for the helm, we're going for cooldown, because the breakpoint is I think somewhere between 37-38% for perma vengeance. I've got 36%, so I'm missing it by a little bit of a fraction, but it's just about good enough, so I'm not going to sweat it. But if you could get a little more than this, that would be ideal. Now, in terms of the skills, we have got Strafe, Drifting, Shadow. Strafe normally reduces your move speed to 75%. This build is all about speed, so we're going to take Drifting Shadow to make sure that we don't get any reduction and we stay at 100%. Strafe itself does no damage, it's just a mechanism for getting around the map. It's a mechanism for firing out the Hungering Arrow under the God 4-piece. Devouring Arrow, this just does a bunch of damage because each consecutive pierce increases the damage of the arrow by 70. So if you're firing this through a big stack of trash, obviously if it hits 5 in a row, then each one gets 70% added to it, so it does hit pretty hard. So nice map, really big density. This will just absolutely wreck through stuff, which is really good. Vengeance with Seethe, this gives us 40% extra damage, which is the main benefit, but also it generates hatred, because what we do have with Strafe is it costs hatred, and if we're going to be holding this down a lot, moving really quickly, firing out those automatic hungering arrows, we could run dry of hatred, so Vengeance Seethe is very important for that. Fan of Knives, Bladed Armor, this is a toughness buff, so it's not up 100% at the time, but it's up pretty much most of the time, 40% additional armor. Personally speaking, I just numlock these two because they're so important that I just want them going off constantly. I will link Lord Fluffy's numlock guide if you don't know what that is. Now, when you're holding down Strafe, these two won't go off. It will prevent the numlock from activating, but as soon as you click left click to fire off a Hungering Arrow, which you will be doing every split second just to make sure you stay at 20 momentum stacks, both of these will try and go off, and if they're off cooldown, the numlock will handle it. So basically, because of the way the build functions and plays, you can still numlock and use Strafe quite a lot. Lastly, we've got 2 toughness items. So Companion Boar Companion is here for the 20% all res, really handy with those gems as we saw in the gear. Again, GR95 elemental will wreck. This is very important to combat that. And then Shadow Power Gloom is a bit of an oh shit button, so you can press it and it's 35% damage reduction and a fairly decent amount of life per hit. Now, the life per hit lasts 5 seconds, the damage reduction lasts 5 seconds. It's got no cooldown at all, so it is literally capped at your discipline. So you can use it probably 3 or 4 times in a very short period of time, and then the discipline will be empty. So obviously this comes back over time, so you just need to play this by ear. If there's a bit of arcane you need to get through, a bit of poison on the floor, maybe you're fighting a mob with shielding and you just need to stay in that fight a little bit longer without backing off, then this can be quite handy. Obviously if you get a shield pile and you don't need to use it, it's very situational and you just pop it when you need it, which is pretty good. Passive wise, we've got Cold Weak, so 20% against slowed or chilled enemies. Bane of the Trapped handles that one. And Night Stalker I found is very important because it just means that I will never run out of hatred. So Hungering Arrow normally generates 4, so obviously we strafe, with every second or so clicking this to fire it off to keep the 20 momentum stacks. instead of getting 4 hatred, we're going to get 8. Really handy for making sure that we don't run dry. Ambush, 40% damage to enemies above 75% health. Obviously really godly, we want to take this. And then finally, awareness. Particularly with the NEMs, we are a bit squish, and you will rely on this, you will proc it. Obviously you might want to be a little less aggressive when you have your cheat death up, but if you don't have it up, you can be a bit more blasé about life. Other than that, guys, I can't really think of too many other particularly good passives. Blood Vengeance would give you a bit more resource, but I'm open to ideas if anyone's got anything. But as you'll see from the footage, it's very close range, blow stuff up. Now, in terms of progressing the build further, as we say, we've got the Raps of Clarity swap to increase toughness. You could always take the Entangling Shot bow, so the Odyssey's End. That way, if you hit with Entangling Shot, you would deal 150% damage from all sources. Obviously, the way the 4-piece works is it spits out your last use primary, so if you did use Entangling Shot, you would get extra damage, but then it would be spitting out Entangling Shot, and you'd then have to recast Hungering Arrow if you wanted the 4-piece to be using it. So I don't really want to worry about trying to tag stuff with this. I like the move speed from the Echoing Fury, I like the attack speed, and if we're wanting to clear stuff in 2 minutes, then we're just looking to be as fast as possible, but that's certainly progression. I could also see squirts coming into play. Again, not for the kind of brainless, mindless build that I want to do, but if you want to stay at range, another double damage mod, like with multi-shot, is obviously going to be pretty godly, and you would just basically be staying at range and trying to avoid damage. As I say, for me, a bit too much of a pain in the butt. I just want to get in there, blow stuff up at close range, whiz through it in 2 minutes, and not be blocked off by I can't stand in this, I can't go through that, something at range is knocking off my squirts and that sort of stuff. And the negative effect of this, really, we don't have too much toughness, so it would start to hurt pretty early. But if you want to be completely glass cannon, it could be another option. But that's pretty much the build, guys. So how we play it is when we get into the rift, we just tap our strafe instantly to get the damage reduction up. Obviously these two are numlocked, so they've probably gone off already. Then what we do is we build ourselves up like really quickly. That's a good time for some lag, isn't it? We build ourselves quickly up to the 20 momentum stacks, then we strafe, and we're just basically every split second just stopping ever so briefly to make sure that we keep these stacks at 20. Whenever we do stop to fire the Hungering Arrow, these two will try and auto cast, so they will have really good uptime, pretty much 100% on the Vengeance and near enough on the Fan of Knives. Oh shit button is the shadow power, and you don't ever bother pressing Boar Companion. The active is okay, it will kind of taunt the enemies, but honestly I just don't bother using it. So stats wise, guys, we're looking to get to that 37-38 cooldown points. Other than that, we can get Hungering Arrow damage on our belt. I really should have rolled it on these trousers. Armour is complete crap, so I would be doing 15% extra damage, or well, not quite, but near enough if I'd re-rolled that properly. You can also get it on your offhand. I mean, it's going to be incredibly hard to get like crit chance, 20% attack speed, and also Hungering Arrow damage. Element of choice is obviously cold, so we're looking to pick up cold wherever we can. Flavour of Time is another really difficult piece to roll, so we've got a few kind of headaches here. Area damage is great, double crits, attack speed main stat. I've got quite a few defensive stats, so maybe it wouldn't be quite as tanky if you didn't have quite the big health pool like I do, but obviously bear in mind, if I had more damage, I would be melting enemies that much quicker, so obviously always a bit of a trade-off. I like kind of tanky, as I say, I quite like playing things brainless. What we'll do, guys, is if this does change before the season starts, we'll maybe rework it, maybe we'll come back with another guide if it looks like there are better speed builds that we can do, but 95 to be just literally 2 minutes, brainless as anything, with no augments and unoptimized gear is very nice. I'll be back as soon as I can with some more PTR content. Hope you're staying safe, take it easy, peace.